Teams say that they're ready to challenge here in match 7.
Match number 7 is here. Day 2 of the Global Championship has arrived, and this is what it is all about. Who will have the start of the career, really start of their day, go the way that they expect it to, as Queasy and Thomas are going to be the first to touch down. We already had the chance to interview this team as well, right? Start to get a feel for what's in store for them. And you can tell there's other players kind of in the vicinity. However, they have the drop fully to themselves, but it's not the same.
Exactly, Restored Reels has definitely been a pretty popular hot contest here between Malabuka, Merstash, and the Power Boys from Oceania, Alex and Worthy. Worthy, though, managing to find a shield potion off rip, could definitely bode fairly well. And surprisingly calm start for both of these teams. They've got enough distance between them that they'll both have an opportunity here to loot things out and see how that next engagement really goes.
Much different than what we saw in days previous. Meanwhile, Peterbot and Boyo also seems like there's a little bit of a different strategy going down here. Yesterday, Peterbot and Boyo would have already probably had 2 eliminations come the drop here. However, they are still at 0, but jumping on over to that conversation of Malabuka and Merstash, game 1 jitters, more like game 7. However, things are off to a fast start for Power Alex and Power Worthy. They get the tags and they find more onto Malabuka. Already, it's looking excellent for the Team Power Boys.
Alex trying to do what he can, trying to scramble up behind Malabuka. Malabuka managed to throw down a couple of metal walls just in the nick of time.
Nice.
But he's only delaying the inevitable. She strikes first here in day 2. Alex and Worthy fully in control now of Restored Reels.
Australia continuing to step up now. That's exactly what we want to see here. But for Kovacs and Huddy, the most surprising, I think, of all the duels that appeared inside of the top 10, given that they had a perfect day 1 minus a single early game elimination. We'll catch back up with them as K Shota and KK have to make their region proud. All of the Brazilian fans are rooting for any of their teams to step up here. Can they win this first fight?
All Chiefs and Crisp are trying to do is just make sure they have to fight back. And Shota eats more damage than what he was bargaining for. Crisp now next to Chiefs. They're going to find that first knock. Shota is down. And unfortunately for them, Keiki goes with him.
Very, very tough angle to peek there, given he ran out of real estate. But look at this, Swizzy and Yapko try to make a move out of town, and Yuma and Rise, top 10, the best performing team out of Asia from day 1, is here, ready to meet them in here at match number 7.
Something the analyst desk was asking for was a potential Batman, Booga, and Rapid appearance to maybe try and challenge for this bunker that Swizzy, Yapko already seemingly trying to create space around. They've got plenty of boxes surrounding them. Rise and Yuma actually going to opt to disengage for the time being, but curious to see if maybe we get a little bit more action located at that Karen's Crossing bunker.
Yeah, I mean, and we've heard the insight, right? A lot of these teams are putting tons of respect on the Asian duos, especially Yuma Rise, Kyoda, and Mapoli. Very, very, very strong duos coming out of Asia right now, and they have demanded and earned their respect. But jumping back into things here at the beachhead, Cold and Acorn are coming in, right? They obviously have their heads set straight, right? They had a great performance day 1. Finding their stride here is going to be super important, given that, I mean, there are those external pressures, right? Teams playing off the cuff, teams, of course, hitting the reveals.
But today is a real opportunity to see for some of those teams where the off-spawn contest didn't necessarily pan out in their favor, how have they actually chosen to adjust? And will it even work out for them, or will they choose to fall back to that familiarity of once before that took place in day 1? Kovacs, though, Huddy, still trying to ensure that they can try and maintain their position at the top of the leaderboard, and they're gonna have to fight their way through Scroll and Sky, just getting held here on the edge of Rebel's Roost.
Yeah, all things considering right now, Scroll and Sky were winning this engagement, given that Kovacs does not have heals to work with, but Vino and Clicks in a very important fight, a quick rotate, a swift one to find Crisp and Cheeks here, and they shut them down, and they're off to a very hot start.
It's almost surprising to see Veno and Clicks look for a new method of approach. The real question that remains now is Cheeks, Crisp, how are they going to manage to actually deal with this sort of early pressure? Because again, the small surprises, the little bits of bamboozlement, that's all it takes, the split second for everything to go south.
Scroll and Sky moving back to the Rebels' roost after pushing out Huddy and Kovacs there. So it does seem like both teams are going to be content with the exchanges between their sides, but jumping over to Bolts and Bryce, a very clear forecast tower play in motion right now.
Look, I know Vico and Flixie like to think that this is their forecast hour, but these exchanges right now from the peaks of these Surge bases are leading me to believe that Bolts, Bryce, they might just get this one all to themselves. Their drop at Dumpelhasen just gives them so much more of an advantage for tracking quicker towards this forecast tower, getting that setup online. Quick preview, though, of what Chapentini have been dealing with, and it's actually Oshi, but Worthy, unfortunately, not going to be able to stand tall this time.
Very tough team to go against. Chapentini, who won game number 1. Clearly, they have a stride about them that has been shown here this weekend. Match 7 now, starting off in almost similar fashion. It seems like while everyone's trying to get their bearings, they start a bit ahead, but keeping that momentum is going to be one of question here today with this European duo. And, you know, overall still within the top 20 is impressive to say the least. 1.5x multiplier, right? Every elim means a lot more. Placement points are going to weigh even heavier as things start to add up. But let's jump in with Sphinx and Dukes here, who are trading tags, it seems like, trying to farm some kind of damage here in the early game across what might be Acorn and Cold.
Right now, Sphinx and Dukes, they're just taking full advantage of applying a little bit of pressure onto the teams at Redline Rig. Keep in mind, if they do get a successful shield crack, they could always look to just try and turbo aggress. They've got that flaming boost hoop right next to them, and Sphinx just seems to be prioritizing exclusively the surge tag damage threshold control.
How impressive of Swizzy and Yapko to survive the drop. Trashy threats, Peterbot Boyo. A lot of action down at the raft, so it is, of course, in their best interest to get loot and hit the road, quite honestly. You don't want to stick around there, given what can be in store. Kazian Aspect clearly didn't want any more of that action as well, as they've moved somewhat north here to try to make the best of their strategy. But look at what happened. It's kind of causing this very congested area here. Ultimately, when the Storm Surge turns on, most of these teams that have created these new adjustments will end up clashing in much different circumstances.
And well, that's the thing, because teams can review, teams can try to make those adjustments and implement new strategies, but how much of it is actually going to be structured around what you were engaging with in day one, as opposed to the other adjustments that similar teams, similar mindsets, everybody is looking to try and change things up here, at least if day one wasn't working out in their favor.
Yeah, Baka Paros, we saw finding some knocks there in the feed on teams nearby, but couldn't confirm their elimination, so their damage must be ranking up nicely. Meanwhile, Vico and Flixie have a bit of a position here over the opponents. Talk about fights for the forecast tower. The card is in the hands of Bryce and Bolt, whom are just outside of it, so if they want to activate it, they will have to fight their way through this duo.
At the same time, though, Clone and Kramzu might be enough of a distraction factor. Bolt and Bryce are going to look to retreat just a little bit further east from where the forecast tower is currently at, but Vico and Flixie know that they've got the prime real estate currently. They don't want to allow for Bryce and Bolt to get a complete freebie for this forecast tower, but they might not have a choice. And even further still in the horizon, Thomas HD, Queasy, slight surge base on a hill just outside of Reckless Railways, but more importantly still, Thomas HD, he was on fire all day yesterday, especially with that Monarch pistol.
And we saw moments where he was clutching up, perfectly timed there, back-to-back tags. This is the highlight you were just talking about, Taco. I mean, Thomas HD is a sniper with anything in his hands that does big damage.
If it's got a scope, then Thomas HD is going to be an absolute fiend with that weapon. But Booga, Aviv, another one of our team's big fan favorites here, of course, but also just knowing that they need to try and develop some form of a new strategy. Even bumped into Aviv in the elevator earlier on today here, MDF, and asked him, hey, we're looking at the comeback, and he's like, well, I hope so. And it could start here. They've already got one elimination onto Danath. It's just Tinka trying to keep his duo's hopes alive, but Bugha and Aviv, they struggled a decent bit with their surge damage, so this could be a big opportunity if they're able to pinpoint where Tinka is at. And they don't look like they want to let him go.
I'm looking at the map, though. There's a team moving in very fast here from the south now, so other opinions are going to be thrown into the conversation here. It's Asia's Job and Michael who have now started sliding their way towards the Doom's courtyard. So anything really can happen. It'd be wise for Bugha and Aviv to possibly make a move now, but of course, it's day 2. Strategies are being put to the test.
But Job and Michael need to be careful with the way that they're crouch walking around that rooftop. Doom's courtyard sitting at a slightly lower elevation. And there's a high possibility a team in a surge base happens to be looking around, see some freebie opened up shots. Players not protected from behind because they're too fixated on trying to get this surprise opportunity onto Aviv and Bugha.
There's Koyota, Mipoli, Kovacs, and Huddy. A lot of teams looking to set up an ambush at the moment. Gotta love this strategy here. We haven't seen too many big plays coming out the bush just yet, but doesn't mean even a top-tier professional won't get caught off guard, given that we've seen anything happen here on the desk. But there's just no foot traffic here, given that the zone is pretty far north, it seems, northeast-ish at the moment.
Problem though for Kovacs and Huddy, since they were forced out of Rebel's Roost, they didn't actually have that time, that opportunity to properly farm out some of those much needed hard materials. Their mat count looking a little bit grim given the current circumstances. It's gonna be hard to try and control your own mid game. Got materials to back it up as Ed, Persa tracking down solo in Nathan, but no backup this time in sight for Nathan.
Persa on the move right now. Ed pressing hot on the walls here. Nathan trying to escape. It's not looking good for Nathan or CZB. Into the box. Persa goes with Ed. Well played for them, and the Brazilian commentators are popping off on the desk right now for the Brazilian region. You love to see that for Ed and Persa here.
A lot of these players also looking for those confidence, the momentum swings that could make all the difference for these next few matches. Clear up day number 2 here. Chicho, just strong connections off of that Monarch pistol. Meanwhile, Vico, Flixie find themselves a little bit of an aggressing situation here onto Clone, but with a team that knows Reckless Railways as expertly as Vico and Flixie, this split approach, they've managed to sandwich Clone in between them, and it looks like Kramzu might also be caught in the thick of it, but I like this pincer maneuver technique coming out of Vico and Flixie.
Yeah, it's working very well, but if this duo of Kramzu and Clone decide to collapse on one or the other, it can spell disaster, so we'll have to see what happens here. This is, of course, the Reckless Railways, though. This is their home turf. Armored wall comes down. This is not good for Vico. I was going to say, they've cut off his backup. Flixie, look, has to work all the way around, and now he has to actually back off here, so definite mistakes being made right now. Forced to cap off HP here, given that he'll have to play this one out by himself for a couple of moments. Meanwhile, still a lurking duo nearby in CR's Michael and T1 Job there. Anything can happen, but look at how Vico unfortunately gets caught off and out of position.
There's a lot of trust that's implemented into that split technique, but more importantly still, Clone and Kramzu, they're still having to fight their way out of the Reckless Railways. One elimination might not be enough. Our international regions fully understanding they're gonna need more points to make their way up on the leaderboard standings. And Kramzu, Clone, they've still got their eyes on the prize, I believe, but Job and Michael are not making it easy. Instead, they're gonna track down Flixie, catching him from behind. That's a big pickup for Job there, saving his teammate's life.
CR Job, T1 Michael coming in, finding eliminations here. Clearly a new strategy being deployed for this duo here, given that yesterday was such a struggle for this team to get their feet off the ground. And now we're seeing a much slower approach as opposed to taking full-on head-to-head battles, almost lurking between the major drops, trying to find fights that are in action, working a lot better for them now.
But the bigger picture here at DF is that when you've got our third place team going out this early on into the match, no placement points secured, and that is a massive deal because it gives so much opportunity. It opens the door for everyone else to try and squeeze their way inside of it. Kramzu back against the wall, trying to see if he can work this way out. But it's not going to be enough. Michael with the collapse, clean elimination. And that's going to be 3 in total for Job and Michael.
We're seeing why this is a team that had their dominating run on the region. Again, the Asian duo coming up, really making adjustments to their strategy. It's one of the best parts about the Day 2 format that we don't get to highlight enough, right? The teams that come in and start to adapt is what makes it so crucial to really pay attention to what is changing around you. But for Peterbot and Pollo, not much has changed given that they have continued to key their way into the Rift Island. This time, though, met with a lot more resistance. It's about the weakest we've seen them coming into mid-game, and I mean, it makes sense. You have Zagu up top here with Shadom and Vadil and Reason here. Very strong teams, very low on the surge here for Pollo and Peterbot. I mean, everyone might just get what they've been looking for, a potential early exit here.
Oh, that was a little bit of a whiff there out of Pollo. Was probably hoping to fully connect, but Pollo, he finishes what he started, gets Reason in the process, but finds himself getting immediately gobbled up by Vadil. And now a serious 1-versus-1 situation, but keep in mind, there's so many other teams surrounding Rift Island. Peterbot, he's just hoping that he can get the revive off.
Talk about an incredible save here, but Badial's not gonna make it easy here. Armored walls are coming out. Peterbot is desperate and boxed up right now. Zagu is also just above, putting in a couple of shots here, but things are gonna slow down. And just when you thought it was over, they get saved here. Peterbot and Pollo are back in.
But at the cost of so many of their armored walls, Peterbot had to fully utilize practically everything he had saved up. And keep in mind, they still need heals. There's no shield, at least as far as Peterbot's loadout is concerned. Possibly Pollo is carrying a couple of small shield potions, but I'd have to guess not, considering that neither of them is bothered to recover. They're just trying to tango once more with Vadil, but he will not budge.
He's doing an excellent job here waiting for them. He knows it's still a 2v1, and Peterbot and Pollo are absolutely deadly here. And let's not forget, they have the medallion, right? So they still have very much full awareness of who's around them, but the tags, they need more damage. They've run out of heals here. This is about the best case scenario for every other duo in the lobby if you want to win the globals, which we know very surely they do. Pollo, though, not giving up just yet. Still knows that there's a job to be done here.
At this stage, though, another issue for Peterbot and Pollo is one of their only options remaining to exit Rift Island might just be to take the Ascender down. But again, if they go for that launch pad, they might encounter even more resistance from the other teams that are a little bit more established, a little bit more healthy as well. But Pollo, Peterbot, they try to mark it off in the first place. They will break through the builds and manage to escape.
Hopefully they don't get targeted while they're flying by. A lot of teams here in the vicinity now. Peterbot going for the dive down. Pollo trying to scout where's the best spot. They're below the surge. They're gonna have to land and take a fight. It's all or nothing now. Peterbot tries to go for Dukes and Sphinx, and they go for it, but Peterbot gets knocked. It's all up to Pollo now. Everything lies on him to keep the train going here. He's gonna find a lot of tags here, just enough to keep his team in the win now. They try to box up Peterbot. They want to finish his duo. He's not trying to give it away for free. He's actually fighting with all of his heart here, and they're running for him, trying to steal his duo away, and he's going for it, but no! So close! Almost takes down Dukes as well in an incredible exchange, and first place is out. The runway is open.
Respect the meat shield performance there out of Sphinx. He knew that he was already relatively low. He could absorb at least one shot and trust that Dukes would get the job done. But a massive upset here in match 7 as 3 out of our top 5 teams already eliminated. Thomas HD, Queasy, Trulex, Chicho. Now is your chance to surge upwards.
Agers is solo at the moment inside the zone, but we gotta get the update here from Queasy and Thomas HD, who have been working their way up slowly, steadily, looking to manifest this global championships victory right before their eyes here. The tags are great from Thomas. Things are really starting to ramp up now, and we know what they're playing for, and that's that victory. We saw it in the interviews. They just want to take height.
At this stage, if they've had a chance to witness what's been going down inside of that elimination feed, Thomas HD and Queasy exclusively need to focus on their own game, just playing things out as if it's any other match. Pretend like all these other teams in the top 5 are still in the lobby, because that's what's gonna give them in the mindset to stay for their best performance.
There's a lot going on right now, given that the zone's starting to develop here. It's not just high ground being held. There's also big names clashing all around us here. Take a look at how Vino jumps in, takes down Paper in the highlight. Possibly then Victor V back-to-back, but it wasn't over yet. He gets met with a crushing defeat to the hands of Quanti and Gone.
The overhead view doing an excellent job at highlighting. There's practically nowhere left to hide. Everybody is stuck on even ground just about. And what I want to see, MDF, is whether or not Queasy and Thomas are going to be able to successfully make their stake on height. Trulex and Chicho box on the low ground directly underneath them. And if these Titans clash, one or the other could potentially fold.
Well, here's the thing. Thomas HD and Queasy are two of the, again, only players left in this lobby that will notably challenge height every single time. Most of the competition that would otherwise do that is not in this lobby. I do anticipate a runaway scenario here. However, Brazil, King and Phaser hopping across, yet not even close enough to challenge up for high ground. So there's very little teams that would actually have the heart to go up, unless coming into day 2, they've decided to shift strategy.
And that was a pretty risky jump forward as well from King and Phaser, because the way that Thomas HD and Queasy have been spraying at other teams, you've got the indication that they likely have an assault rifle, so it's a lot more difficult to make those jumps from the high ground off the Flowberry Fizz, heading towards front side of the next zone. But Sphinx, Dukes, we saw them shut down our first place team on the leaderboard already here today. They're hoping to see if they can transition this into a victory royale of their own.
Sphinx and Dukes through Elims. Hard eyes on the prize right now as Reese trying to slip his way from the storm line into the safety, but unfortunately is going to fall there in 19th place now. Very well within the top 20 here, as there's a lot of placement points to be earned. This is a 1.5x multiplier for everyone tuning in right now. These games have significantly more weight than yesterday's round. If there's a day you want to perform, it is here and it is now. Queasy and Thomas still working their way. Look at this build. They are willing to commit heavy material, heavy resources to hold high ground.
And what's one of the most impressive aspects of Thomas HD and Queasy's run is that they've been doing all of this without a forecast tower. They are just sheer commitment at this stage. Thomas HD continuing to try and prevent players from getting anywhere near that secondary height even, as Cooper forced to just utilize the medkits, playing from the backside of the storm and zone in general, but only a matter of time before he's spotted out as a solo.
Just a complete shakeup with the teams we're seeing alive right now as well. Bryce and Bolts keeping up the momentum from where they left off in game number 6, carrying it straight into game number 7 now. A near top 10 for Bolts here, but he will have to fight someone on the outside of zone. Trulex and Chicho, meanwhile, just running game here on the mid-ground. Now looking to jump down to low. They have enough maps to do so, cutting off their opponents here. There's a lot of reaction coming here, though. You have Asia on one side of the wall, OCE on the other, fully boxed in now. They have to be careful. There's no way out. Trulex and Chicho might have signed themselves straight back to the lobby accidentally now. Oh no, having a heal here. Chicho gets caught out. One false mistake, and it will come back to haunt you here.
But
high ground.
Scope, Queasy, Thomas HD. They could tell Phaser for a moment. He got a glimpse, but he won't actually get a taste of what the high ground is like. Queasy now going to be the first to drop. He's continuing. He knows he needs a refresh. He wants more material. If he can find an elimination, if he can play the disturbance factor, he can prevent anyone from having the potential to threaten Thomas HD's current position. Thomas HD, in fact, alongside Queasy, just going to continue to try and secure as many eliminations as possible.
We are witnessing greatness right now as Thomas HD and Queasy are putting on a masterclass from the high ground here. Doing a very good job now securing eliminations, starting to rack up. Queasy will have to get those mats there, has to jump to the tree. He sends Thomas HB down to Soren to start cutting off the teams here. Completely new duos in the conversation as well. It's Zagu and King and Phaser now, that's all that's left in a clean 2v2 here.
But the zone pull, Thomas HD and Queasy, they made it to the top of the hill. Phaser is going to manage to find his way up. Thomas HD instantly puts him down. Queasy with the cleanup as well, and a victory royale finish.
We expect it, and now they're performing from the interview section all the way in to the first match here of the day. What a way to keep up the momentum. And of course, you know what we're gonna get next. A word here on the floor, given that we wanna hear what's happening.
Would you please give it up, your Game 7 winners, Queasy and Thomas HD! Woo! Boys! That is the way to do a Game 7 on day 2 of Global Championships. Queasy, the high ground was king there again. What a way to start the competition today.
I mean, take high, don't die. It's that simple.
I love that. It's a man of few words, but you know what? They mean a lot. They pack a punch. Thomas, today as well, we see the likes of family in the audience, all these fans here as well. Fort Worth, make some noise for these players! I want to talk about how pivotal it was as well. You saw in the elimination feed, I think in the 6th zone, we saw Peterbot and Poyo go down. Did you know then you had to capitalize on that?
I mean, Christians said, like, you saw it in the kill feed, so yeah. Like, we just played our game. We didn't think about it. They were in the game, but it doesn't matter for us.
Now that you've seen the 1.5 multiplier making a massive difference today as well, looking at the points, you've really tightened things up at the top. Do you go out the same way again? I mean, obviously high ground being really important there. How did the mid-game change for you guys that time around?
I mean, we will see. I can't tell if we're going to play high or not, but if the opportunity is there, we're taking it.
And it seems as well, Queasy, that each time you guys get that high ground, you're the one sent down just to wipe the floor, get those eliminations. Thomas holds the high, and it's working really, really well.
I mean, yeah. What is there to say? Like, we just take high and we win. There's nothing else to do. Like, we just need to perfect our mid-game. And if we get into endgame with good match, that's it.
We're looking forward to seeing what happens next. Would you please, one more time, Fort Worth, give it up for Queasy and Thomas HD! Woo! That is the way to start a day 2 of FNCS Global Championships 2024. Loads more to come. What's going to happen next? We'll find out after this very short break. We'll see you in a few.